morning, everybody. How are we all feeling? Okay, you know what? That's fair.
The coffee hasn't kicked in yet, has it?
It's 10 a.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah, I see some shaking heads over there.
Yeah, pretty much. So, kia ora, we are the cosplay competition team, and we are basically kind of here just to sort of like introduce us who we are and what we do, and kind of what the process is around the competition. So, first of all, let's go on the line and introduce ourselves. Colin.
Good morning. I'm Colin. I am the kind of stage manager and photographer for the competition, and kind of the overall point of contact for all of the cosplay events we run, whether it be parades, competition, working with the photo wall upstairs with Peter, all of that kind of stuff. If you email cosplay@armageddonexpo.com, that's going to be me.
All right, next up, Sebastian.
It is on.
It is now. I had the mute button. I didn't think I was going to be talking during this panel.
Sorry about that.
So I'm Sebastian. I'm the production manager for the cosplay competition. We're still workshopping exactly what that means, but essentially I'm here to take our crazy ideas and try and make them happen and try and keep all of these wonderful humans on task.
Yeah, he's also the professional judge wrangler. That's me. I'm Ree. And I judge this competition, and I try and come up with ideas and have them shot down 50% of the time because that's stupid. But it's all good fun. Yeah, our meetings are chaos every time.
And I'm Lisa. I do a lot of the emceeing. I manage all of the social media, so if you see us posting on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, if you haven't followed it, you should.
And Facebook.
And Facebook, that's me. I'm also the face that most people come in to see when they first come into the competition, and I'm texting all of our contestants and checking in on them throughout the time. All right. So, for a complete competition beginner, can you give us an insight to competition and the whole process of entering from putting in their diary into the judging day? Can you tell us about that, Ray?
Okay, so the competition is a construction-based competition, so you do make your own costume from start to finish. There's like a 25% leeway. Generally that covers things like shoes and wigs and stuff, because we understand that's not easy to make. And so you enter this competition form. Colin and Sebastian have put together beautiful application forms. Do you guys want to talk about the application forms before I continue?
Yeah. Okay, so when you go to enter on the Armageddon Facebook page, there is an online application form, which...
On the website or the Facebook?
So on the Armageddon website, there is an online application form which you fill out. It just asks you some basic questions like, what's your character name, what anime or what game are they from, if they're from a variation of the anime or game that somebody's done artwork for, things like that. And then a little bit of information about yourself, just so we've got your contact details if we need to contact you for any reason. And then it will ask you what category you're going to enter, whether it's youth, which is the 13 and under category, whether it is the novice category for people who have never competed before or have only competed a few times, they've never won any awards, that kind of thing, they're new to cosplay, or whether you are in the advanced category, which is what was used to call open, but we now call advanced to bring it more in line with overseas conventions. But advanced is for the people who have a high level of skill sets, or they have won multiple awards in previous cosplay competitions. They'll enter the advanced category. And then you have to submit a construction diary as part of the entry.
Which I spent quite a bit of time, so in my time competing, I developed a very good format to make your diary and make it cohesive and easy to use. So we've been able to make that into a document for everybody to be able to use and make it so much easier. So it makes it easier for us to read, so we can find out what's most important for when it comes to reading and judging. And so that gets attached.
Yep, so I get the all the judging forms and the diaries. They're all submitted 2 weeks in advance. They'll come to they'll go to Colin, he'll put them in the Google Drive and let me know they're there, and I will read these diaries and I will take notes. My notes are very, very chaotic, but they allow me to go into the judging sessions with these pre-prepared notes, so I can skim read these notes and I can take the information that I know I wanted to talk about. I'll write follow-up questions in my notes and stuff. So I go into these sessions fully prepared to ask questions and have conversations with the contestants. And yeah, I'll ask questions, I'll take notes in there as well. So as soon as they leave the room, I take notes again with what I followed up on in the session.
The other big part of the competition diaries is you'll hear us talk a lot about this being a construction-based competition. So the diaries are really, I guess, the first part and the biggest part of us getting an insight into your process of how you created your garment. For us to understand what went into that, it's really an important part of the judging process, and also an important way for us to, we learn things from them, but we can also use what you write in your construction diaries to give feedback and tips on different ways of working. And that's really something we're trying to push through this competition, is it's not just about entering to win, it's about entering to learn and entering to, have the experience and also get some tips and some feedback from some people that know what they're doing and me.
So obviously so you have your diary, you submit it 2 weeks in advance, and then Armageddon weekend rolls around, and then we have judging. What exactly does that sort of look like when they come into judging? How does that work?
Okay, so the week before Armageddon, you'll get an email from me giving you a time slot for your judging session, and then on the day, you will come to the judging, or not quite to the judging room, you will approach the judging room and you'll be met by Lisa, who will check you in, make sure you're here. She'll have a chat to you while you're waiting, sort of like help calm those nerves, all that kind of thing. And then one of the three of us will come out and bring you into the judging room, and usually most weekends we will start off with a few photos just to relax you and kind of get you to start thinking about your costume and start talking about your costume a little bit. So we'll take a few photos, and those photos during the main stage presentation for the competition will go up on the screens. And that's to help people who are a little bit further up the back when you're on stage have a better look at your costume.
It also allows us to showcase some contestants are not always able to make it to the actual presentation panel, so it allows us to share their work with you as well.
After we've taken the photos, then Rhea, Sebastian and I will start asking you some questions about your costume, and we will refer back to your diary for certain things. If there are particular things you have mentioned in your diary that we want to know more about, then we will ask about those things. If you've added things to your costume because your diary is due 2 weeks before the competition, you may have added more to your costume or finished particular pieces, and so if there are things you have added to the costume, then we will ask you questions about that and get you to give us a little more information about how it was made and any struggles you had, anything you were particularly proud of about your costume, and just get a feel for your costume and how it was made, what you're proud of, all that kind of thing.
I'll quite often give little tips and tricks on how to do things. When I know a competitor has struggled with a particular thing, I will kind of give them suggestions on how to do it slightly differently, so it takes less time or is easier, or they couldn't figure something out, so they just kind of wing it. And I can see through all of my experience over the years in the industry a more effective way of doing it, and I will tell them how to do it in a very polite manner, very encouraging environment.
Also, any tips or tricks we give you during the session, we also write down, and then you do have the option of emailing us after the competition to ask for feedback or to get that information sent to you. And so Rhiannon will write up any feedback she's got to help you improve on your next competition entry, and if we did give you specific items or locations or things to look at online, then we can send you links and more information about it.
Yeah. So obviously, when you're looking at these costumes, because I know this is probably a question a lot of people will have, what are some of the key things that you're looking at? What's some of the things, like just off your top of your head, that makes a costume stand out from the rest?
Yeah, so one of the big things I look at is cleanliness of finish, how it was replicated as precisely as possible. I do give a good chunk of leeway for things regarding health and safety. If you have altered your costume to make it safer for you to wear, I'm not going to dock you points for your own personal comfort. It is a costume after all, and quite often we are cosplaying from anime or video games and stuff, and so we understand that, you know, there's space metal. It's not going to...
Physics exists.
Physics exists in the real world. It doesn't exist in anime or video games. So we understand that there is going to be some adjustments to fit it to our human bodies. Also things like body confidence and stuff. Some people, for religious aspects, will not show that much skin. And so you take into consideration, like, okay, this person is not comfortable wearing a crop top, so they're going to make it full length. I'm not going to dock the points for making a cosplay that is comfortable for them. Yeah. I also look at exploration of technique. So I love seeing people that have gone and learned something new, and I will ask them about this, like new techniques you've learned and stuff. And it also means that I'm constantly learning as well. In order for me to keep up with everybody, I have to continue keeping up my skills. So this summer my mission is to learn how to do LED lighting, because we've seen a recent boom in a lot of LEDs and stuff in our competitors, and whilst these two gentlemen understand it, I do not. And I feel like I need to be up to date with this stuff, so I'm constantly learning. Yeah.
Alright, so we've had all of our competitors in, everyone's had their photos, then it goes on to picking our winners, and then the next day, usually, because we'll have judging on the Saturday, and then we'll have presentation on the Sunday. Sometimes it changes. So then it goes on to picking our winners. So how does that sort of work?
So after everybody has left the judging room and they've had their judging sessions and everything, we'll take a break and we'll just let it sit for an hour or two, and then we'll all come back together. The four of us will gather up in our room. We'll have all the photos up on a laptop and we'll flick through them. If there's anything specific we want to have a look at, then we will go to that costume and have a look at it, and then we'll all sit down and basically discuss the pros and cons of each costume, and we will kind of just narrow it down to one or two and then go deep into those two costumes and just really kind of pick them apart with that pros and cons, and put the photos up next to each other, bounce off of each other about what each person noticed about the finish and the techniques and that kind of thing, and we'll go through the diaries again.
Yeah, this is where the judging Bible comes really into play. All the notes that were taken during the sessions and during the judging readings, we're able to go through those again and work on those pros and cons and the exploration of techniques and the learnings and stuff that the cosplayer went through.
Sometimes this process will only take us like half an hour, 45 minutes. Sometimes it may take us a day, and we won't make a decision until like a couple of hours before the competition the following day, because sometimes it is just a really hard competition.
Which is a good thing though, when you guys make it hard for us, it actually is so rewarding in the end.
We do like seeing really competitive competitions where it is really hard and it comes down to a couple of people, and we do have to kind of sit on it overnight. It does make it a little more interesting for us.
And then I'll get a text saying, who's the winner? Come on, you need to make a decision. And I'm sitting there just like, I don't know. Help me, team.
Or lying on the floor of McDonald's crying because she doesn't want to make a decision.
In fairness, it wasn't on the floor, it was in a booth, and I had my hoodie over my head and I was sulking.
Yes. So then obviously, so we pick the winners, and then the next day we have presentations. One thing that we've recently implemented is a posing workshop for our competitors. so they know what kind of how to feel on stage. You want to talk us through that?
Yeah, so that is something that we have brought in this season, is wanting our competitors to feel comfortable on stage. We understand that not everyone knows or is comfortable, posing on stage in front of a large audience. And so we work with these people. It's like a drop-in session. It's not mandatory for the contestants. They just can come if they're not comfortable on stage. And it's just talking them through what to expect on stage. So like walking out to the spike point in the middle of the stage, standing there with a couple of poses, and we'll workshop a few poses with them, normally 2 to 3 poses, just so that they can go on stage knowing, okay, I'm going to pose like this, and then I'm going to count to 5 in my head, and then I'm going to switch to this position. And it brings them more confidence and like comfort on stage. It means they can bring their best foot onto stage to present to you guys, because there's a lot of photographers and everything's recorded and stuff, and so we want them to look back and be like, yeah, I'm really proud of like my costume that I made, as well as the performance I put up on stage.
Yeah, you'll hear me say it a million times, but we're here to try and help you be the best cosplayer that you can be. And so for us, things like the posing workshops is our way to do that, to help you be more comfortable, to help you become the best version of that character that you want to be. And that's something that we are trying to do a lot more with this competition going forward, is how can we not just use it to pick a winner, but to give back to you as our community, and how can we inspire you to compete again and want to do better than you did last time.
Everything we work with you in the judging room on are things you can take out onto the con floor with you. So if we're doing particularly the posing workshop, this will help you when you're on the con floor. Somebody wants to take a photo of you, you don't have to stop and go, I don't know how to pose. We've just given you a couple of really quick go-to poses that you can jump into, and a lot of the poses we like to give the contestants are really basic so that they can work for multiple characters. So if they are very new to cosplay and they've never had to do the posing kind of thing before, then their next costume, a lot of these poses will probably work with that one. And so they can be on the con floor in their costume. Somebody asks for a photo, they can think back and go, actually I can do this.
You'll see a lot of my photography, like of me in the photos, I'm usually cracking the same 4 to 5 poses, because they're my go-tos. They're where I know that I look good in this position, I'm comfortable in this position, and sometimes it's all you need.
Yeah, and obviously that also helps with our sort of link now with the photo wall, for our competitors to be able to go and show off their photos and go get photos with Peter at the photo wall, and they have that confidence to be in front of the camera, which can be really daunting if you don't know what you're doing. So that's one of the things that we're trying to bring in to make people feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I think my first professional cosplay photo shoot, I was so nervous and so anxious that I didn't know what I was doing. And then after that, I actually went and did a professional photo shoot with a photographer down in Wellington, and she taught me how to pose. And that was really beneficial during that photography session, to learn about angles and how accentuating angles can lead to a beautiful picture. And it feels weird. It feels so weird when you're posing like that, but it creates beautiful imagery.
All right, so there on stage, winners, prizes. So we have we've had a little bit of a revamp when it comes to categories and some of the swag and prizes that we have. Do you guys want to go through our cool new acrylic stuff, which we should have brought with us?
We should have brought them with us. I turned this conversation to our swag designer and creator.
Hello, I'm a swag designer and creator. So this year we've got some new medals, we've got some new trophies. They're all made out of some beautiful reclaimed New Zealand timbers. We've also got some leather patches showing that you were part of the competition, that you can take away and sew onto your own garments as well.
Or jacket, or whatever.
Whatever you want. We've got certificates. What else have we got, Tim?
Stuff that we're still working on.
So there's a couple of things that we'll be pulling out later on in the season as well. But we are trying to grow the community, and we are trying to give people more things to show off how proud they are of the work that they've done. You know, as I said before, for us, this is our way to give back to the community. And yeah, what better way to do that than through swag?
Yeah, we've got some beautiful images of our trophies up on our social medias and stuff. They're very pretty. This season's colour of trophy, yes it is trophy. Trophy is blue, and it's a very pretty blue, with our logo and like best in show and all that sort of info on it. I mean, I love them. I have one of the failed attempts in my bedroom. It says Armageddon cosplay competition, best in show, and it's on my mantle, and it's a half in there. It was definitely a mock-up.
So you guys were talking earlier, you're always giving feedback to our competitors. So what's something that you've been able to take away from judging, or what's something that you've actually managed to learn from them in that whole process?
Oh.
Sometimes competitors come in with costumes and they've used a really interesting or not so common material. And it's occasionally just like, didn't actually think you could use it that way.
Oh yeah, this happened in Tauranga.
Yeah, so for me in Tauranga, with one of our competitors, I had no idea that hose fittings could be used to create props that can pull apart for transport. And for me, that was the biggest takeaway. Is I'm always looking to. So I make props. That's primarily what I do in the cosplay world, and I'm always looking at how can we make them practical to travel. You know, exploring magnets, exploring all sorts of clips and things, and then one of our competitors turns up with a giant staff. Like, how the heck did you get that on the plane? And she just pulls it in half, and it's some hose fittings, and I'd never ever considered using them like that, but it's one of the smartest ways I've seen a prop come apart ever.
2 months ago, he made me a prop to go with my Bo Peep cosplay, the Crook, and I walked into his workshop, and there's hose fittings on the bench, and I'm like, all right, I see what you're doing. You're copying someone. It's perfect use.
You call it copying, I call it being inspired by.
Oh yeah, 100% inspired. Yeah.
Always think a little bit outside the box for when you're looking for things. Like the hose fittings is a good example. We had somebody in Wellington last week who used copper piping for water cooling PCs as part of their costume for piping, and just think a little bit outside the box occasionally and you'll find some really cool ideas.
My husband's always complaining because he'll get home from work and he'll go to cook something in the kitchen and he'll find half the cooking utensils have suddenly made their way into the studio, because I'm like, oh, I need a board to cut something on.
And I need a cheese grater to do some weathering and breakdown on my costume.
Yeah, half my kitchen is in my studio.
Why did we end up with cotton in our lasagna?
It's natural.
Obviously there are some rules for our competitors that they have to follow when it comes to entering the competition. We've also looked at revamping that. Can you guys tell us a little bit more about that whole revamp process? Mostly Colin, because Colin's been doing all the hard work.
Colin's the one that wrote the
writing.
new rules. We just participated.
Thanks. Okay, so with the rules, there weren't too many changes to the rules from previous competitions. We kind of just... Part of the issue with the previous competitions is our rules were kind of spread over multiple locations. So on the Armageddon website, you'd go to the cosplay competition page and there'd be some rules, and then they'd refer you to the cosplay prop policy, and then you go to there, and then they'd have a link to something else you had to look at. And so I kind of went around...
There was no we in this, it was all you.
I went around to all of these different locations and collected all of the different rule sets that you were supposed to be following in, and turned it all into one document and rewrote sections of it that were kind of redundant, and so made it a little more streamlined and made it kind of easier to follow, so you only had to go to one place to find out what the rules were for entering the con. And so in the rules document it has the lists of the different categories you can enter, what the different prizes are, what all the different rules are regarding the materials used, any props or anything like that. It's all in one place now, and it's a lot easier to find. So if you go to the Armageddon website and look in the cosplay competition page, it's one of the 3 links towards the bottom of the page where it's got the entry form, the rules, and something else.
It's the competition diary template.
That's the one. It's Lisa's nice, beautiful template that she made up for people who don't know what a construction diary is.
It's actually really, really good format for me to read as well. So if you are thinking about entering, check out that link, because when I open a diary and I can see it's in that format, I understand it really easy, and it just brings me joy to see our templates being used.
So most people aren't aware of, for us, what goes on in between months apart from doing crazy crafting. Especially in the last 6-ish months, we've been doing quite a bit of work, which obviously includes bringing Sebastian on. Tell us can you kind of give a bit of an insight to what we actually do when we're not here, when we're not judging?
We have a lot of meetings.
We also make costumes.
Yeah, so for a lot of us, it's spending our own time upskilling, honing our own crafts. Sometimes it's going and researching things that we've learnt about through the cosplay competition process, as Ree was talking about before. Learning how LEDs work and how to use them in costumes, because that's what a lot of our competitors are doing. So a lot of it is us going away and researching, what the new up-and-coming methods and techniques are, and working out how we can apply them to our own costumes, but also making sure that we've got a good foundational knowledge for people when they are coming to us, that we feel like we can actually judge what they've done. A lot of meetings. So at the moment we're doing a lot of work looking at what the next phase of this competition looks like, where we can take it, what new elements we can look to include going forward. So we're doing a lot of brainstorming, a lot of workshops, and a lot of just talking about the format of the competition.
We're also doing a lot of work into looking at how we can branch out slightly away from the competition and bring more stuff to the community so it's accessible by everyone, not just the competitors. We can't drop too much information on that because we're still in the R&D figure it out stage.
Yeah.
But there will be info coming out as soon as we figure it out.
Yeah. So tell us one thing that you enjoy about doing the competition.
Oh, I love this question. I love seeing the joy on the competitors' faces when they come into the room and they're so proud of the pieces they made, and they should be, because at the end of the day, they decided, I'm going to make this. I don't know how, but I'm going to make this. And then they do, and they come in, and you just want to fill them with, you just feel all this energy and happiness radiating from them because they did it. This is their thing. They made it. And it just makes me happy.
It's always one of the last questions we ask at the end of the judging session is, are you proud? And most of the time, that's when they really light up with this massive smile and like, yeah.
They get all shy, like, yeah, I'm really proud. And I'm like, good, you should be. Because, yes, you did it.
For me, it's just the back and forth of information. It's us being able to give our knowledge over, but also, as we've alluded to previous, it's about what we learn from our competitors. People have incredible minds and people are incredibly creative, and everyone just has a different way of looking at things. And for me, it's learning about those new tips, those new techniques, those new methods, and just really getting an insight into people's creative process. We all work in our own ways, and for me it's really fascinating trying to tease out from people the ways that they like to work, and then looking at how we can apply that to the work that we're doing as well.
Yeah, and it's always very fascinating to see a lot of people, especially in the more rural regions of New Zealand, they don't have access to all the stuff that we have access to in the big cities. We're all Wellington based, so we have access to a decent amount of stuff, but people in the more rural regions, they don't have the same access that we do. And so seeing what they make things out of, we've seen a lot of stuff in the last 6 months made out of pillowcases and duvet covers and sheets, and they'll find a dress at a second-hand store that's the right fabric, and then they'll completely destroy that dress just for the fabric.
Cardboard.
Cardboard is a big one as well. We've seen a lot of cardboard, paper mache, plaster, wrap and stuff used because that's the material they had access to. And 98% of the time, you can't tell that it's cardboard. It's amazing how effective these cost-saving, essentially, techniques and materials are can be. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's not even just the cost-saving aspect of it. It's, you know, a lot of those techniques that I've never explored. And, you know, my goodness, somebody's figured out how to make this amazing thing out of paper mache, and I throw it onto paper mache a balloon, and still have it look like a circle.
We'll work on it.
Yeah.
Cardboard prototyping is a really good idea.
Yeah.
If you want to have a little bit more of a deep look into cardboard prototyping, one of our guests from last weekend in Wellington, Spicy Thai Design, he is doing a really big push on cardboard prototyping at the moment. And if you have a look on his Instagram, he's got a whole pile of posts on there of like helmets and things like that that he's made out of cardboard, just to kind of show that you can do it with cardboard. And I know through my actual full-time job, I've seen him working with people on making helmets out of cardboard, and they'll make 2 or 3 different prototypes, and then they'll have one that they really like, and then you don't need to like cut it up and transfer it into another medium or anything like that. You can then just take some warbler, wrap it over the top of the cardboard, and you've got yourself a solid helmet. That's really good for a prop, and you can then paint it up and it looks amazing, and you can't tell that it was initially made with cardboard.
I mean, I'm sure there's other ways that you could wrap it as well. Like, warbler isn't the cheapest material. We do have a really good warbler seller in New Zealand, but it's not always the cheapest. So like, for those wanting to be cost effective, you could just paper mache over it. You know, everyone's got water and flour in their houses.
I'm getting very distracted by the Pac-Man group up there, I must say. You guys look great.
You guys look great.
Yeah, welcome. So if you guys had any questions for us, please head down to the front so we can answer those for you. But a couple of days ago, I opened up some questions on our Twitter and Instagram. And one of the key questions that came through that I thought was kind of important for us to answer was, have we ever thought of a People's Choice Award for a competition? And Colin had a really great description for that, so I thought we'd address that if anybody wants to answer any questions.
Okay, so we have had this question a lot over the last few years, is about the People's Choice kind of thing. And because we are a construction-based contest, People's Choice is a popularity contest. There is no way to avoid it being a popularity contest because you know who you're voting for. And it literally comes down to who has the most followers on social media. And so if it's a popularity contest and you have somebody new who made an amazing costume against somebody who has a lot of followers who maybe kind of didn't put as much effort into it and knew that they didn't need to, then they were going to win because of how it works. We've actually seen it in the past with things that Armageddon has run. Years ago, Armageddon used to run an animated music video contest at their conventions. And you could have a really technically heavy and technically clean music video that was made out of some kind of lesser well-known animes, but was a technically more polished product, and it would lose to something somebody threw together in maybe 15 minutes that was the hot new anime. Because it was the hot popular thing and it was a popularity contest, it'd just win without trying. So it is something we have thought of, but because we are construction based, we won't be doing that anytime soon because we don't want that popularity contest and people trying to sort of activate their followers to make sure that they win or anything like that.
And unfortunately, in this day and age, activating followers is really easy. And so, yeah, we just want it to be fair on all of our contestants, albeit the new ones coming up through the world, as well as the ones that are quite ingrained into our community and stuff. We just want everyone to have a fair, equal opportunity.
One of the other questions that came through was, I'm not looking to compete, but where are some good places I can get costumes from so I can look as cool as you? Was literally the question.
Okay, lordy. I don't have a huge amount of experience purchasing costumes. I generally make my own. I am a seamstress by trade, that is my job. But I know that a place a lot of people in New Zealand get their costumes is from Mixed Costumes.
Yeah,
Mixed Costume.
Cosplay, yeah.
I know you've purchased some costumes before. Were they from Mick or?
Yeah, so I purchased from there as well. Honestly, at this day and age, Google's your best friend. Just keep hunting. Another place, I think the New Zealand Cosplay group on Facebook, which I've had a few plugs for this weekend, but they have an entire section dedicated to people asking questions about where can they find, X character as a cosplayer.
There's also, if you just do a quick Google search for best online cosplay shops, there's a number of large international cosplayers who have broken down the different cosplay shops that they buy from and the pros and cons of each shop. And so that's a really good place to start.
My big recommendation if you're buying costumes online is to check reviews, because reviews are pretty honest. They will review badly if it's a bad piece that they received in the mail.
Yeah, and the other thing too is making sure that you have accurate measurements before you purchase is a huge thing. Obviously, being a plus-size cosplayer, it's been very difficult to try and find things that aren't in Asian size, small or medium. So obviously making sure that you have the accurate measurements before you buy something is super important. One thing that we touched on yesterday with our panel, and we did this last week as well with Jasmine of Cutie Pie Sensei, is looking at, taking bought cosplays and making them your own. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
So we were discussing this with Cutie Pie Sensei yesterday and last weekend around, I'm a newbie cosplayer, I want to kind of develop some skills, and some of the advice she gave was to purchase a costume and then alter it to fit you, like work on just learning some basic altering techniques before you even start entering the world of creating. Not creating, that's a bad way of putting it, but starting the world of creating your full costume from scratch. Start purchasing pieces and altering them to you, make small accessories and stuff, that sort of thing. And then, you can build up and you'll
Starting slow.
Starting slow is the big one that we are pushing. If you are starting, wanting to start making your own costumes, start slow, learn your processes, get good at them, and then learn a new thing. Don't overwhelm yourself to burn out. I think we've all experienced burnout at some point. And it's not fun.
A good thing you can do is, if you do buy a costume from overseas, when you get it, you can just start taking like little bits of the costume and replacing it and upgrading it over time, because a lot of these are mass produced on cheap. And so when you get them, they're good. Some of them are surprisingly good for the price that you pay. Especially at the moment, Genshin Impact is huge, and some of these Genshin Impact costumes that you can get online are ridiculously good for what they cost. But there are very much improvements that you can make to these costumes. And so you can get this costume and it'll be great for a couple of conventions, but then over time you can use that as an idea of how to make something to adjust it. So you can start with the little embellishments and things like that, and just swap them out for ones that you're making, and then maybe tackle a bigger piece of the costume, like a shirt or a jacket or something, and make your own version of it to go over top of the costume. And then slowly over time you've ended up making your own costume.
Yeah, one thing I want to reinforce is, especially for my competitors, is you can use purchased patterns, you can use purchased 3D print files, as long as you are the one that is cutting out the fabric and making that costume, or you are the one that is doing that cleanup on that 3D print. You're the one, gluing the pieces together, cleaning it up to make it smooth, painting it, I see 3D printing a file the same as I see purchasing a pattern from Spotlight or wherever you buy your fabric patterns from. So there's you don't have to be an amazing 3D modeler to do this stuff. You just have to know how to clean it up.
The other thing I'd say is that if you are looking to get into cosplay, buying internationally and shipping them to New Zealand does get expensive.
Yeah, it gets pricey.
So I'm a big advocate for the the op shop cosplay, where you go and you find the closest thing you can, and you might need to make a few modifications to it. But if you could find a jacket that's the right colour and it almost fits you, and it works for your character, then absolutely use what you can
I
find.
mean, case in point, my Lordner skirt, I found op shopping while I was working, trying to find some stuff for on set, and I found that for $5. I added in an extra layer, and then just sat there. Well, I say me. Lance sat there with a cheese grater because I am banned from using them because I cut myself too easily. Just to weather it and make it,
Yeah, I think one of my first cosplays that I ever did back in 2010, that was an op shop dress and an op shop corset that I just kind of modified to work for me. And it was not the cutest, but I was 16 and I wanted to wear it, and I was proud of it.
My Milo Thatch cosplay from a few years ago, there was no way I was making his big woolen jacket. So I just went to an army surplus store and bought one.
Yeah, we've done that too.
Yeah.
My brain's lost. Captain Marvel, there we go. My Carol Danvers flight suit costume that I have, that was a Army Surplus store purchased flight suit because I refused to make one. There's so many pockets. But we did a lot of research into the exact flight suit that it was, and we went to the surplus store. We actually spent a good couple of years searching for this flight suit to find one that was pretty much what we wanted. And I ordered the patches online, beautiful patches. Cannot remember the company I ordered them from, but they were perfect. And just a bit of stitch work, and I had a costume.
The other thing I'd say is that nerds are absolutely amazing for deep diving their characters. So if you've got a character you're trying to make that's either based in the real world or looks like it could be made out of purchased materials, I would put money on the fact that there is probably a breakdown guide somewhere on the internet. The RPF, the replica prop forums, are particularly good for breakdowns.
Yeah, they're a really big community, and they've broken down so many things over the years, and if they haven't, they will.
Yeah. And the other thing to say is that the New Zealand cosplay community very much acts like a community, and if you reach out for help and you reach out for suggestions, they are very supportive, and you'll probably get a response.
There's a lot of really big international communities as well that you can go to. Yep.
Sheeprop's a massive international community.
There's a lot of really big communities that if you go to for help, then they're all willing to jump in and help. And you just ask a question, does anybody know what this is made out of, kind of thing, and somebody will probably have the answer because they've probably also investigated to want to make it.
Yeah. And another thing we see a lot of with a lot of characters is custom fabrics. And it's amazing.
Because we were talking to Jasmine about this for her custom print that she got done for her Wakanda outfit. If you saw her yesterday,
the Shuri costume,
yeah.
So one thing that we've been researching a lot lately is those custom print fabrics, and
Parallel Life Studios.
Parallel Life Studios do amazing pieces. So does Spoonflower. Spoonflower is, you can literally, we're looking at doing an Aloy costume, at some point, and we just typed in Aloy into Spoonflower, and all of these fabric prints appeared because some amazing nerd decided, I want to design this. And it saved me hundreds of hours of crying.
And trying to design. Actually,
it saved me hundreds of hours.
Yeah, there we go.
If you don't by any chance know her, the artist Hannah Alexander does a whole bunch of Art Nouveau style remakes of popular characters. There's a couple of people out there who have created particular ombre for Spoonflower, so you don't have to actually do the ombre yourself, so you can just purchase the ombre fabric, because those nerds took the time to do it exactly how the artwork was.
I didn't know that.
You didn't? Oh, there you go. You learn something new every day.
We're also saying those nerds, but let's be real.
We are those nerds.
Contribute
We're
back
also,
to that as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Did anybody have any questions for us as the competition team? Otherwise, I have one other question for these guys. I'm looking at you, don't worry.
Looking at one of our contestants, like, we know you have
Yeah.
appropriate only, please. There are children in this audience.
Yeah, he's not coming up.
No. All right, come on up.
Okay,
Wait, no, we've got a microphone. And, all right, Colin's jumping. No.
I don't know. Oh, yeah,
Yeah, we're good. Alrighty, hello Cam, what's your question?
Hello.
Hello.
So, question for you guys is, how do you deal with balancing the wow factor from something that's technically excellent? So, example is Elena's, or the girl who did the vest from Black Widow, and
Yeah.
technically beautiful,
Yeah.
but when you look at it, not that wow, versus Steel's armour.
Yeah.
That's a,
Yeah, how would you balance those two? I know they weren't in the same competition. Sorry, name dropping so much.
I'm glad they weren't in the
Okay.
same competition, because that would have,
Yeah.
it was hard enough.
Okay, so
That season with Steel in it
So-
was a brutal season. There was
Um,
tantrums from me.
For those who don't know the cosplays that we're talking about, it was Yelena from the Black Widow movie, where it's the vest that has the zips on it, versus somebody who's made a massive armor build.
It was a Monster Hunter armor
Yeah,
build,
Monster
so if you're
Hunter.
familiar with that franchise, they're intense.
Oh yeah.
both also Todong competitors.
Steel competed in Auckland with that one.
Yes, but he has competed in Todong.
Yeah, he has. It's brutal.
So to, I guess, start answering the
Oh,
question.
yeah.
It's really easy to get overwhelmed up front by a big costume. And one thing that we try really hard to do is not let the size of the costume dictate how we approach it.
This is one of the ones where we would just put it aside overnight. We'd have our initial meeting, discuss everything about the two costumes, and then we'd put it aside overnight.
But we're still looking for the same things, between a small, technically amazing costume and something that's big.
Like last
It
night.
might also be amazing.
Yeah.
But we're still looking at the cleanliness of the finish. We're still looking at the fit of the piece. We're still looking at the attention to detail. How clean those paint lines are, how clean those stitches are. It's the same no matter what scale we're looking at.
It's the cleanliness of finish, the techniques researched, the progression that has gone on. I like seeing when my competitors come in and they have developed new skills. That's a big thing that I encourage with my competitors, is to continue researching and continue growing and learning. We are a learning-based construction event, so we want you guys to research and learn and progress your skills. Sorry, Colin.
A great example of that is in Wellington last week, where
Oh my god.
so our best in show from Wellington has won previously with an entirely fabric-based garment.
It was all leatherwork.
Leatherwork.
and-
It was leatherwork and fabric
Yeah.
wear, as in
This
time
time
around. It was a 3D printed Master Chief, but it was the way that he fiberglassed it. It was the weathering and the painting techniques that
He
went
also
into
did a
it.
lot of the modelling as well.
Yeah, and he did all I think 90% of the modelling himself.
Yeah,
on that.
so he had never, last year he'd never worked a sewing machine before, he'd never worked with leather before, and he came in with this gorgeous Geralda Riviera piece and just blew us out of the water. And then this year he walked in the door in this full 3D printed costume, and I kind of just stood there and I was like, oh god.
I want to
damn it.
point out that he was the only competitor that had to get 2 doors opened in order for him to fit it.
Yeah, it was
And
massive.
so
It's
he
not
is
short.
almost the definition of your question, Cam. 2 completely different pieces. If we had to judge both of them side by side, it would be
Well,
an
we did.
impossible challenge.
We had to judge him against Alethea,
Yeah.
Yeah, we
who
did
is also
actually,
a past winner and does very clean, very tidy work. And she hand stitches her entire historic garments, and they are immaculate.
Stunning.
So we literally had to compare 2 costumes like that.
Yeah, and what it came down to.
Came down to the learning.
It came down to the learning, the exploration of different technique. yeah, you can see your competitors that want to grow. Our contestant who won with Yelena in Tauranga earlier this year, we've been watching her grow since she was in the youth category.
Yep.
Yeah, she's been coming in, and every year she's coming in and she's learnt new stuff, and she's like 15, 16 now, and
16.
she's 16 now, and she walked into the room and it's like, oh, how dare you? Like, you are doing so good. You're 16 and...
Doing better than I could have said.
Teaching me that hose fittings are a
Yeah.
very
It's,
good way to break down a prop.
Yeah, but it's that process of what I'm showing, the fact that you've taken on board the information that we've been giving and the learning and actually running with it. That's huge as well.
Yeah.
Any other questions from anybody about the competition? I see you out there, I love you. So I did ask this question yesterday of Jasmine, because so last week
Know what the question is?
Yeah.
Oh.
So last week I asked Jasmine of Cutie Pie Sensei, if you had an underrated superpower, what would it be? This week I want to know, what do you think is the most overrated superpower? She said flying. What do you got?
I agreed with her yesterday and I agree with her today. Flight is the most overrated superpower because what is the point? Teleportation would be far better. Thank you.
Nah, she made a really good point. I've never thought of flying as my top pick for a superpower.
No, it's never been like...
Nope. My top pick for a superpower is...
She's asking the most overrated
Yeah, I
superpower.
know. It's like there's a lot of overrated superpowers, and every time people are asked, "What is your go-to superpower?" I had this thought years ago, and it's like, if there's one in particular that if you chose it, then you'd be fine. You'd have all of the other superpowers.
The ability to
comes up with
steal
that.
other people's superpowers.
No.
Oh.
If your superpower was that you were infallible,
Sorry, what?
it means anything you say is true.
Oh, I don't like that.
Infallible, yeah.
Oh, so when you say Rian will show up to stage on time,
No, she won't.
But it
Nothing will
means you
change
could
that.
say you have a particular superpower and you would have that superpower.
okay, that's cool. Yeah. You really are the evil mastermind of our team.
Yeah.
Really is.
Your turn.
Personally, I've always thought heat vision.
It's so stupid.
Overrated? Yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah, because I don't understand the point of it except for destruction. And as a superhero, we're supposed to be saving things, not destroying
Oh,
things.
you're a hero? Oh.
Also, it's not consistent.
Everyone does it differently, and it never seems to work.
All right, Lisa, same question.
Language.
Adam.
Honestly, I think invisibility.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
I think it's overrated because one way, form or another, you're going to be able to be found. Because, believe it or not, you need to be, so for you to be able to see, you need your pupils to be able to take in the light. You're not completely invisible. How are you going to be able to see if you don't,
It's going to hit the back of your eye.
Yeah. So, technically, you're never completely invisible. So that's overrated.
And plus,
Depends
like,
on your definition, plus comic books make anything possible.
I mean, yeah, comic book
Yes,
magic.
yeah.
But also, like, when you turn invisible, clothes don't.
Yeah.
So, you have a choice there.
But maybe they do. Who defines?
I mean, in Fantastic Four, her suit, you know, she was wearing it on the spaceship. It got the same powers as her. She was able to wear that. But that's not always the case. Man, we're nerds.
Yeah, we are nerds. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming to listen to us chat. We see Damien coming down the stairs.
Oh,
now to come
Damien's
take
coming to tell us to
over.
get off the stage.
Yeah, we'll get off the stage. So the competition is going to be at 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
So we will see you back here at 4 o'clock. Thank you so much for coming and have a chat. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Do come and chat to us. Flick us a message if you have any questions about the competition or anything at any point in time. That's what we're there for. We are very approachable. It's usually me messaging you.
Yeah, so on all social medias, we are NZ Cosplay Competition.
Unless it's Twitter, then it's NZ Cosplay Comp because it's too long.
Yep. And our email address is found on the Armageddon Expo website.
Cosplay@armageddonexpo.com. But also, if you see us on the floor, feel free to come up and ask questions and chat to us.
Thank you for having us. I love you!